No ID is meant for a sane audience. No ID may contain liberty-oriented content. Pinko discretion is advised. Now, here's No ID with Paul Banducci and Scott Moskowitz.
Hello, it's No ID. Man, you know, it's only been a couple of weeks, but I only a couple shows and only a couple weeks in between recordings, but it feels too long.
We missed you. We hope you missed us.
I missed you.
Oh, Scott.
I wasn't talking to you.
Oh.
I was talking to whoever's hearing this, which, as it turns out, surprisingly and happily, was a few people. And we'll get to that in a little bit when we talk about our value for value model on this show, which has already paid off. And I think that might have been the most shocking news. Well, you tell me what your reaction was.
I was pleasantly surprised, very pleasantly surprised. And then I had to ask you questions like, how does all of this work?
What?
I'm the podcaster who doesn't know how to podcast, but I'm here for it. So
That's all your job is to just provide the North Idaho credibility like we talked about on the first show here on No ID. So we're the hyper-local revolution covering North Idaho. And in fact, we're not really covering North Idaho. We are not journalists. We're deconstructing the journalists. That's the point of this show. Every region has a mainstream apparatus that propagandizes. And every region, therefore, needs deconstruction. So Thanks for checking us out. And it's our second ever episode, and we're right on the cusp of elections coming up in just a couple of weeks for city councils and mayors and school boards. So there's a bunch of timely material, and this show will be a mix of both timely material and evergreen topics, again, like we sort of talked about on the first show, which covered North Idaho College. Some of this election, these elections coming up, people are bringing that back in, evoking a lot of the same themes.
yeah, they just can't help themselves. They play the same cards over and over again.
There's going to be chaos if you don't vote for the right people. Don't mess with us. If you don't vote correctly, we're going to take a torch to the curtains.
That is essentially the main talking point of NRI, which is an organization called North Idaho Republicans here in North Idaho that branched off from the KRCC, the Kootenai County Republican Precinct Committee. They are not an official Republican-affiliated organization, but they're big mad about conservatives actually winning some seats from time to time. They like to refer to themselves as conservatives. Of course, we all know they're not. The term we use for them is rhinos. It's a battle that's being fought on the daily around here, and it can be very confusing to those who are new and even those who are what we might call the low information voter or the voter who doesn't have time to look into all of it or what have you. So that's what we're here for. Not necessarily telling people how to vote, but it's good to know who exactly you're voting for and what they represent. One might say they're Republican, but their platform or their policies or their who they know and what they do doesn't reflect actual conservative Republican values. I do not intend, Paul, you tell me if you feel differently, but I'm not planning on saying like, oh, this is who I'm voting for. This is who you should vote for. Like the cards that come in the postcards that come in the mail, we should here are your preferred candidates and just check boxes. I don't intend to do that. Oh, well, I might. But for me, it's I'm an anarcho-capitalist, so I'm just going to out myself right now. But anybody who's listened to this who knows me knows that anyways, because how do you know a person is an anarchist? When they walk into the room, they tell you in 2 minutes, The first question we ask is taxation theft? And everybody who raises their hand and agrees with me goes, we're going to be friends. So for me, it's about consistency, ideological or political or all of those different categories. Consistency, basically, say what you mean what you say, do what you say you're going to do. And I'll hold you to that, whether you're on the left, whether you're on the right. I argue with conservatives almost more than I argue with leftists due to a lot of inconsistencies. So that's what I'm here for. That's what I like to do is just kind of call everybody on it and go, hey, you say this, but I'm not seeing it.
So what we're going to hear on this show is a lot of the candidates themselves and the interviews that they did with the Hagadone News Network. I pulled a lot of audio from their own mouths, and I want to go through it. And let's start with the Post Falls City Council.
Welcome to the 2025 General Election Meet the Candidate Interview Forum. This year's forum is presented by the Hagadone Media Group and the Joint Public Policy Committee, which represents the Coeur d'Alene Regional, Hayden, Post Falls, and Rathdrum Chambers of Commerce, in partnership with the Coeur d'Alene Post Falls Press.
For this segment, we're going to be talking with candidates for Post Falls City Council, and we'll start with Ryan Davis. Can you assure voters that you will not raise property taxes, vote to raise property taxes? Whether yes or no, can you explain?
I would love to assure that we're not going to have to raise property taxes Unfortunately, to keep the services at a high level, we're going to have to address taxes. And that could mean that we're going to have to see some tax increases.
That was the first thing I wanted to bounce off of.
Well, at least he was honest. I can appreciate that. Boo.
I'm going to do okay, there's a spoiler here. There's only one person that I heard that didn't answer that question basically this way. They asked the same questions to all the candidates. It wasn't that like the mayoral race was a set of questions, the city council race was a set of questions, but it was the same questions as all the candidates. And like I said, with no commentary from the moderators, but all but one person basically answered the questions that way.
We're seeing interest rates beginning to creep down a little bit, which means that you're going to see more activity in the real estate market, which means more people are going to move here.
So that was another theme, was growth. Everyone's talking about the growth and what do we need to do to control the growth or limit the growth or do it in a smart way or whatever.
You and I touched on this. The key to make housing more affordable is to build more. And that's the thing around here nobody wants to grapple with, because everybody wants Idaho to stay the way it was when they got here or when they were born here. But it can't. People want to live here. That's just the nature of it. And I'm a local. I was born at Fairchild Air Force Base. I was raised here. I'm 37 years old. I've seen the growth and all that entails. Places I used to play as a kid are now houses for rich out-of-towners. You can sit and cry about it, or you can find ways to take advantage of the growth. More people here means higher velocity of the dollar, more business, more ways to make a buck. There's that aspect of it too. More friends to make. And a lot of folks moving here, like we talked about last time, are in this wave, tend to be a little more libertarian, a little more conservative. Not all, but they tend to lean that way. And I, for one, appreciate that. Of course, the power base that's built here does not. And that's the fight that's been going on now for about a decade in earnest.
We do have in the studio with us here today. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Marc Lucca. I'm running for city council in the city of Post Falls for seat 6, which is the one currently occupied by the gentleman you just heard in the clip.
So just because Mark's in here with us doesn't mean we do or don't endorse anybody. Just to be clear, I'm not making any statement one way or the other. I just thought it would be, and Paul thought it would be interesting to have someone that's on the inside of this race in here with us.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose as a caveat, I should say when we first started talking about this podcast, Scott and I, he said, we're not really going to have guests. And I said, that sounds great. In our first 2 podcasts, we have guests because we pick a topic and I can't help myself. I go, I know a guy or 3 or 10 who have the inside track information on what's going on. Why don't we bring them on and let them talk?
So this is the part of the double-edged sword of having the North Idaho credibility and the long-standing, you lived here your whole life, so you know everybody.
Almost.
So there's always going to be somebody that pops into your mind that is going to like, oh, you can come hang out with us. So, yeah. But like Paul
and Mark
saying,
was the only one who didn't tell me no. So here he is.
Well, I don't have any.
Had a lot of free time.
I definitely.
That's why you're running for office.
That's right. Yeah.
I definitely don't want to. Like Paul's saying, like guests on the show is not necessarily the format. The format is Paul and I are going to deconstruct the mainstream presentations of what goes on here in North Idaho. If guests can contribute to that conversation, fantastic. If they don't, also fantastic. I'm not approaching this ideologically, but that is not necessarily going to be the format of the show. So let's move on to the Post Falls mayoral race candidates. And like I said, this is just a smattering. It's not necessarily every candidate, every word from every candidate, and I just kind of cut some of them for brevity. Let's start with Scott, who it's actually Scot because he spells his name with 1 T. And I have a particular this sort of chaps my hide a little bit because in my pre-2020 life and on the previous broadcast, I made a joke once about someone asked like Scott with 1 T or 2, and I was like, who are these maniacs that spell their name with 1 T? And then for the rest of the time that I was on that show, they called me like 2 T's, or people would send in emails with like 7 T's on Scott. I never heard the last of it.
When did we change from names that everybody knew how to spell to trying to become creative?
This is a fantastic question.
And it's funny, if you do genealogy and you go back to the 1800s or something in your family history, you'll see like his name was Cecil, but everyone called him Phil. Nobody was called by their actual name. They all had they were called by something different than their quote Christian name, right?
Absolutely.
All the Bobs and Bills.
And then at some point we moved to
Dick, yeah.
No, we have to name you something that sounds like a regular name, but is spelled like something that you have to, what my wife and I call the Spell Your Name Club, where I'm Marc. So what is the point of that? I'm still Mark. So why do you make me spell my name,
so
right?
You can spend your entire life correcting people.
And I've stopped. because I don't care.
Who cares?
You know,
Yeah.
like if you call me Mark with a K, I can't hear the difference.
I think it would be really cool to have it MARQUE.
Yeah. So
That's a hotel in Vegas. It's the Marquee. I've been to the nightclub.
No, it's Marquee if
Like-
there's two E's.
like a letter of Mark. Yeah. Yeah. So I have to spell my first name. Then I have to spell my last name. By the way, my middle name is Anthony without the H. So I have to spell that one too if I ever have to go to it.
Yeah, no
It's like
kidding.
Jared, who we did some banking with just this week. Jared with what was it?
J-
JAI.
RRODED. It was.
something like
I'd
that.
never seen it before. I've seen a bunch of different variations of Jared, which is, by the way, it's spelled JARED. That's how you spell Jared. But I've seen a bunch of different variations, and I sort of was ribbing him a little bit, but I didn't want to come across because I like being mean because I don't know him from Adam, you know. But I did want to kind of be like, what the hell's up with that?
He was a good sport. He was a good dude.
was.
Shout out to Jared.
Is that, by the way, is that a sign? And again, I'm going to broaden the discussion here. Is that a sign of the feminization of our culture?
There is
like,
something
Do
to that.
men do that? Do men like, I want to name my child Max, but it's going to be MAHXXE or something?
Feminine men do, and there's something about like it's a mother, like I want my little offspring to be unique and have a unique thing, which you can definitely be a unique and interesting person by your personality, not your name. Like your name is really irrelevant.
We have a president named Donald that's pretty big personality, right? Like
some of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life were named Mike.
Oh yeah, back when I was running the lounge, man, Mike's and Steve's. If we forgot somebody's name, we had a pretty good chance with Mike and Steve. That was nice.
Hey, Mike.
So
Yeah.
this is a public service announcement for those of you who are naming children. Ask yourself, are you naming the child that for yourself or for the child's well-being?
What I want to know, Mark, is are you adding this to your campaign platform?
I should. I'm going to,
It's like
I think I need another mailer.
again. Spell names normal again.
Yeah. Post Falls is going to have a child naming committee that you have to submit the name to ahead of time for any child that's born in the city.
They're going to hire 10 people,
yeah.
6 figures.
Yeah, and I know you're going to clip that now, and it's going to be all over the media.
You know
so
I am.
it's free. It's free earned media, is what it is.
All
Yeah.
that said, let's listen to Scot and what he's got to say.
Our first candidate is Scot Haug. There seems to be a growing political divide between conservatives and liberals. As mayor, how would you help find the middle ground to encourage people to work together?
Now, like I said, there's a lot of repeat. They ask the same set of questions, as I was saying.
That's
Again,
a tough question. Like there are two factions on planet Earth who can't share a space together. As the leader of these factions, how would you bring them together?
Right. So they don't have the same ends. They don't have the same needs. They don't have the same desires. But I want to even, again, to deconstruct mainstream presentations. I want to challenge the premise of that is the divide, conservative and liberal, because I watched the, quote, liberals go berserk and become psychotic authoritarians. They're the exact opposite of liberal.
And you have the credentials to say that too.
I
don't want to keep bringing it up, but being from the Bay Area like you are, and you getting out of it for the reasons you got out of it, you got to see it firsthand.
Yes,
up
I did.
close.
They're not liberal. They're the opposite of liberal. And also conservative. I'm not a conservative. I don't know what I'm. I don't know, ANCAP. I don't know, whatever. I don't even care about the labels, but the framing makes no sense and nobody challenges it. The real framing is authoritarian versus libertarian. Do you want to be told what to do and tell people what to do, or do both of those things strike you as anathema?
Yeah, it's a sliding scale. It's more freedom versus less freedom. Where do you find yourself on that scale? Most people say they're for more freedom. Their actions, though, and the way they vote, the way they behave, say otherwise.
Exactly. Yeah, you look at people, what people do, not what they say.
That's in both camps.
Agreed. That's why I don't like
neoliberals and neoconservatives.
I'm with you. That's why I don't like that framing.
That's why I pick on all of them. It is an interesting phenomenon seeing at the federal level, seeing I'm going to use air quotes here, Republican, because Trump is not really a Republican. In fact, the Democrats won the 2024 race. Just for the record, the Democrats won, because if you look at all the big winners, like Bobby Kennedy, who got his place in the world, Trump, Gabbard, go on down the list. They all were former Democrats. So just in case anybody was curious, the Democrats won in 2024, just by looking like nationalistic Republicans. But like the Republicans are now less of the war hawks than the new Democrats. They're the war hawks. But on economics, Republicans look just as bad or worse than the Democrats do on things.
A big club.
They're willing to. Yeah. Anyways,
and 60% of the Republicans
filters all the way down to the local level. So that's I'm reining it in here. That's where we Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, we have the same phenomenon here.
Yeah, and it's that Overton window where the moderate is always moving to the left, and that those that are pandering to them, the left is always moving to the left,
Yep.
and then the moderate's always trying to stay in their good graces on their right hip, Well, the farther they go to the left, then the farther the moderate goes. So sorry to hijack your show, by the way.
It's okay. I've got the power of the edit in the post. Okay, so let's continue on here with what Scot has to say in response to that question.
As mayor, how would you help find the middle ground to encourage people to work together?
That's a great question. We are at a challenging time across the country, and I think that's one of the things that we need to work on is to make sure that we are willing to listen to the other side, listen to both sides of it. And the way I would accomplish that is I believe that people just want to be heard.
What if the other side wants you dead?
Right. See, exactly. The premise presupposes that the ends are the same, that we want the same things. We don't.
We do not.
Some of us want liberty and some of us want to be subjugated. It's that simple. Whether or not you know you want to be subjugated, I watched your behavior. That's why the hilarity of the No Kings protest. You dumbasses love kings. Are you nuts?
They did. Yeah, they just want to be the king.
Do you think that
or a different king or the one they like?
They're both. It's authoritarians like being bossed around as much as they like bossing around. It's very strange. I watched you guys in 2020 and 2021. I might have been born at night, but it wasn't last night. I saw how much you loved being subjugated. You were willing to do anything you were told for as long as you were told. Well, they were scared, Scott. I know. Fear propaganda is as old as time.
One of the topics of conversation regarding the No Kings movement between myself and some of my compatriots who are, we're in our mid-late 30s, early 40s. One of the questions is demographics, because I very much enjoy checking out demographics. Well, the No Kings protests are almost exclusively 55 and above.
They're old hippies.
They're almost exclusively old. I'm not going to use the term hippie because they don't deserve that term. Hippie is somebody who doesn't like violence and doesn't like the government. Yeah, pseudo hippies or whatever you want to call authoritarians masquerading as hippies who like to do a lot of drugs. That was really
they're quite literally masquerading. There was a lot of like furries and other freak show elements.
Old folks who have nothing better to do other than to relive a time when they thought they were fighting for noble things. When even then in the 60s, most of them were all about free love and getting high. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with, I guess, either of those things, but it's a culture. It's not great.
When you say it like that.
On an individual level,
Let's finish with, I got one more. We're never going to get through all these. So let's finish with, it's okay. Let's finish with Mr. Haug.
My priorities are, number one is to be fiscally responsible. Our budget's up 142% in the city of Post Falls over the last 6 years. We need to reduce the budget to make sure that we're reducing taxes and spending money wisely. Number two, we need to make sure we have good public safety in Post Falls and that we're supporting our law enforcement and providing them good wages, good training, and good equipment so that they can do their job and protect us. I believe that's one of the core elements of government is to provide good public safety.
So there again, it's funny, like, he speaks about, reducing the budget and reining it in.
Sounds
and then
good.
in the next breath, he talks about all the money he's going to spend on law enforcement.
Yeah. Well, his background is former police chief.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So just like every quote unquote conservative I've ever known, they don't like government until they do like government and they're willing to spend money on the kind of government they like.
So I would also question the premise that the government is here to keep me safe. I'm here to keep me safe. The notion that my safety needs to be managed by the state.
Well, you would think in this area that wouldn't land so well, but we've talked about this as well. It lands great because this area it really, really drinks the deep blue Kool-Aid here. People love their police here for one reason or another. So when you start talking about firefighters and police, you better not be talking bad about them.
Right.
That's the third rail. You can't touch it. Everybody loves my cops.
Just for the record,
if I had $1 for every pickup truck that had a "Come and Take It" sticker next to a thin blue line sticker, without realizing the irony behind any of it, I'd be a wealthy man.
You don't see it?
For the record, I'm in the minority in the studio on this issue.
Yeah.
Last part of it.
And we need to make sure that we treat the citizens as customers and provide good customer service.
I would also question that premise. I'm not a customer.
It implies you have a choice.
Exactly. I can't opt out of being governed.
Yeah, but in my view, the customer is a citizen, not a customer. And I choose which agency I'm gonna be.
That's why I'm
bothered by.
That's why I'm questioning the premise.
But I'm just saying. I think if you talk to Scott, he probably, and I've talked to him once, so I don't want to interpret his words too much. But I think what he would say is something like what I'm saying, which is that everybody deserves the fact that, wait a minute, I'm paying for this crap. Like what Reagan said when he banged on this, and I paid for this microphone. I'm going to use it. So I think every citizen should get amazing service, whether we call it customer service or citizen service.
Well, therein lies the rub, if I may. So I actually have a question for you. I'm going to say this, and then I have a question for you, Mark. But that's a hard balance to achieve, and therein lies the rub. It's as an example, as a small business owner who had a couple of projects where we were building out our space for the cigar lounge. Each time we had to go to City Hall, and it was expensive, and it slowed things down, and they moved at their own pace. And their complaint at City Hall is always that they don't have enough staff. Well, more staff costs money. So is it, how do we solve this problem? From my perspective, we solve this problem by having a much smaller government, fewer laws, fewer restrictions, more property rights, more personal liberty, and then you don't need a bigger staff to move this crap along. Exactly. There are many who would disagree with me on that, and instead they go the opposite direction and go, let's add more laws to the books, but let's just have a bigger staff to do it. Budget-wise, that's two polar opposite directions, and you can't reconcile them. So there's the rub. But question for you, Mark, because you're very passionate when you speak, and you're very well informed, actually, and I really appreciate having you on here for both of those reasons. What you just said about, I'm going to again use air quotes, customer service or access to the government as a taxpaying citizen. Is that partly what has inspired you to make a run at city council? Because I know you personally, and you're not a giant fan of a lot of government in general, and I know that your preference typically would be to be a private citizen and stay a private citizen, but here you are.
I think, like others that have moved here for political freedom, I don't want to be governed by politicians, first of all. And by that, I mean people that will sway with the wind for whatever feathers their own nest. I have some things to say about the North Idaho Republicans in that framework. But the other reason is probably, Scott, you feel the same way, is I don't have anywhere else to go. Like, if this fails here, where are you going to go? If freedom fails in North Idaho's panhandle, where do you go from here?
That's right. I already did the underground drug kingpin tunnel that my minions had lit and ventilated, and I've come out on the other side in the Idaho panhandle, and if it's a nuclear holocaust up here, there's nowhere to go.
Tell me more about this tunnel.
So
Are they hiring?
So this is my line in the sand. And so it starts at Post Falls. Like, I have, of all the offices that I might possibly have been, encouraged to run for, city council is the most boring. And it has the most risk because you have to vote on things like who's going to fill the potholes. We don't want the potholes and we don't like the government, but we want the government to fill the pothole. So if you don't tax me to fill the pothole, I'm going to vote you out, but I also don't want you to raise taxes. So it's kind of a catch-22 position, right? If you where you feel like, gosh, I'm just kind of a hypocrite for being here in the first place. But the point is that I don't want to be governed by people that are comfortable with government.
I agree with. I'd like that. Yeah. I mean, everybody who is in government and essentially above me is the right term. They're above me, whether they think of that or not. I want them to not be there, and I want them to not want to be there. It's like giving a powerful job to the guy who doesn't want the job. Well, that's the guy you want having the job.
If you say, who wants to volunteer to lead the Cub Scouts on the camping trip up to Schweitzer, the guy whose hand flies up into the air, you don't want him doing it.
Correct. Like, as an example of a recent election for Kootenai County Sheriff, that was on a personal level and a business level. I threw my support behind not the mainstream candidate, who was Bob Norris. And I think in some ways Bob Norris has a few good things, like everybody does, usually a few good things. But the guy wanted the job so badly. I saw that and I went, if you want to wear that badge too much, red flag.
There's a classic of literature. If you guys have read Democracy in America by de Tocqueville, it's from the 1830s, a French diplomat who was sent here to, 50 years after the revolution, the frogs were wondering how the American life was going. And de Tocqueville was here, I believe it was for about 10 years. And he's describing an America that did exist at some point. I don't know how long it actually went on for, maybe not much longer than about when he was here. But he was describing people in political office who did not want to be there from a local to a national level. I just cannot wait to do my civic duty and serve in this for Assistant Deputy Undersecretary of the Interior, and then I want to get back to my farm, please.
Yep.
That was it was not a prestigious position. Nobody wanted to do it.
Our next candidate is Ron Jacobson, running for Post Falls Mayor. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you. I'm very conservative. And yet, one of the local groups who has endorsed me in the past opted to endorse an opponent because they stated he is the true conservative. But I always tell people, People pay taxes for services received in Coeur d'Alene, and it's our responsibility to provide those services. We provide water, wastewater, streets, and public safety.
What do we spend?
I
other
would
people's
disagree
money
with
on?
him and I would disagree with him that it's just a corporation that exists to provide utilitarian benefits. For example, I think that we underuse our power of city ordinance, and I know that the hair went up on the back of your, anarchist libertarian necks, but let me give you an example. So if the school district decided, prior to the law being passed that banned it, that it was okay for men to be in girls' locker rooms in the high school in Post Falls, I'd pass an ordinance saying, no, it's not. And if you want to sue us over it, you can try. But we have the power of ordinance in the city to enforce things that are clear safety and moral choices that protect people. We can answer that for you real quick and say, get out of the locker room with the power of ordinance. And so we get to decide as a community what that's going to be. So these are some of the ways that I think that it's more than that. And I think that Mayor Jacobson, he's done a lot of good. And I think that needs to be, we need to say thank you for your service for all of these, 30 years.
Well, there's a lot of fear that Post Falls will follow the way of Coeur d'Alene.
And it will if left to its own devices.
Yeah. A lot of folks don't want that. A lot of folks in power do want that.
My campaign slogan is, if you don't change directions, you'll end up where you're headed. And that's where we're headed.
There is a rub, though. Whether it's Trump and his executive orders or city council and ordinances, it's great until you're not in power.
Yeah, and that's why we have the power of the First and Second Amendments. We as citizens can say when we've had enough. We can vote different people in, and
we can. But in the meantime, they can go a long way down a particular direction with ordinances or whether it's ordinances or not, with the city council that won't listen before anybody's willing to stack up in the doorway and do something about it. But anyways, I know Scott's giving me the look. We need to zero it back in.
I would argue the First Amendment already did fail. And I have an example right here of when people were stacked up at the doors. Maybe this will bring you back.
And another big story we are tracking for you at this hour. The Coeur d'Alene Public School Board of Trustees was scheduled to meet today.
But today's meeting never even got started. It was called off for safety concerns. KREM 2's Morgan Trout was at the district office when a crowd showed up there, and she's live in Coeur d'Alene tonight to break down what happened. Morgan?
This was by far the most contentious protest that I have been to in my coverage of the anti-mask rallies. And right here is when it all came to a head.
Let me just say quickly, there is no such thing as anti-mask. We were just doing the same thing that everyone did before 2020, which is not wearing masks. There's only pro-mask.
Of the anti-mask rallies. And right here is when it all came to a head. The Coeur d'Alene School Board was supposed to be meeting to discuss requiring masks for students and staff and also visitors who are entering the school, but that didn't end up happening. In fact, it got canceled just minutes before it was supposed to begin, and that was all due to an angry crowd that was trying to get in. Hundreds of people started to gather outside the board meeting building. As the time got closer, the protesters got louder and more aggressive. The board members and police decided it was in the best interest to postpone the meeting due to safety concerns. The protesters didn't like that and ended up rallying outside of the district office, which then needed to be locked down.
We're not here to cause problems. We're not here to fight. We're here to be listened to and for our children to go to school freely without masks. I'm tired of the mask. Go yourself.
I don't know how you sleep at night. You know what you guys are doing to people. You're exploiting their fear.
Many protesters say the school board members should be fired from their positions for refusing to hold the meeting. They say it is their body, their choice, and they should get to decide what happens with their kids. And the Coeur d'Alene school says they are not sure when that follow-up meeting will be to discuss mandating masks, but they said that they will let me know tonight. In Coeur d'Alene, Morgan Traub, KREM 2 News.
I think that clip is illustrative of why a lot of people voted with their U-Hauls and came here, was because there's people actually outside of a building going, no, you're not going to control me with fear.
Yep.
Same thing with Gun Delane, right? A lot of people saw that and said, honey, call the realtor. Like, that's where we need to live.
Oh, Gun Delane. That one always cracks me up. Everybody meeting downtown to defend a bunch of business owners who don't share their politics and don't want them there.
Totally.
It's like,
we just didn't want Antifa people in the city, right? I mean,
Coeur d'Alene, I don't know. You should have.
Even though many of those people agreed with Antifa.
That's what I'm saying. You should have let them just have what they wanted.
So, and I bring that up, and I know you're going to hear a lot of me discussing the masks like you did in the first show, and like I'm sorry, like going forward, because it's something that I can't particularly get over because
nor should you,
of the lack of reflection that so many people have had on just how psychotic that particular behavior was. The notion that you even think you have the authority to issue such an edict. What kind of human being thinks they have the authority to force another human to cover their face? So that's part of the issue here, and why I'm sorry if I sound cynical, and I don't.
No, but where are you driving? Because I think I know where you're driving.
Where I'm going here is these institutions have lost their credibility. And in order for them to get it back, there needs to be an acknowledgement of what went on. And I don't hear a single person acknowledging anything about what went on in the last few years. It's like the whole thing never happened.
That's just going to be what it is. I don't think you're going to get what you're looking for ever.
Well, at the state level, they did address it. But Idaho's unique in that case. They're saying, no, you need to have your emergency powers rolled back. You need to not be allowed to mask people or force them to take experimental medications or any medication for that matter. So I'm proud of our Idaho legislature for doing that.
Yeah, they've made some moves. I'd like to see them make a move where you can't shut businesses down and declare everybody non-essential again.
Absolutely. And also the people that were for it, there needs to be a reckoning. If you're still in office and you were for it and you have not repudiated your own disgusting authoritarian view of it and realized that, hey, you made a mistake. Hey, I said I made a mistake about the Iraq War and a few other wars for that matter, and some candidates that I've supported in the past. I've said, I was wrong on that. And if you can't say that about masks, especially now with all we know about it, you forfeited your right to be in government.
So that being said, I want to play the last part of Mayor Jacobson here. And now he was the mayor during all this, right? Has he made any statement about his behavior, declaring businesses not essential?
I think on masks, he has admitted that he was wrong on that.
Okay, here's the last part.
People move to Post Falls for a reason. We don't recruit residential growth. People move here for a reason. They're not moving here because the city is unsafe, because our taxes are too high, our streets are terrible, and we have no parks. In fact, it's just the opposite. People are moving here because we have a safe city, wonderful parks. The streets are in good shape, and our taxes are very well controlled.
Now, not a single thing that he just said is a reason that I moved here. Now, I don't know what percentage of people that I speak for that moved here in recent times, but nothing about what he just said has anything to do with why I moved here.
And why did you move here?
Because a higher concentration of the people here value liberty. It's as simple as it has nothing to do with parks. It has nothing to do with taxes. Now, I like a park. I like grass, and like clean water and stuff. My premise is not that I don't value those things. My premise is I'm wondering if Ron Jacobson understands his own city.
I would actually argue to his credit, he does. They just don't want to say the quiet part out loud.
Well, but if you don't acknowledge it publicly.
From Jacobson's perspective, and along with a lot of the NIR folks, they don't want to say that part out loud. They know it's a thing. They know the demographics up here lean pretty heavy towards liberty, which is why they try to infiltrate on the ballot box where they can. And that's why they're trying to take over the Kootenai County Precinct Committee spots, because they know that's the game they got to play to win. But the more that they say it out loud, the more credence they give it. They don't want to do that. And I don't blame them. And, from Ron's perspective, his answer makes perfect sense. It's very utilitarian. It's very dry. It's very straightforward. And it's, this is how the job should be. Partisan politics should have nothing to do with it. And, this is how we've performed and we think it's good.
Yeah. And Scott, you and I both could have moved anywhere. We picked here. So I think what Mayor Jacobson's saying is it can't be that bad because people that can go anywhere, they came here. Right?
Correct.
Yeah. And so his point is, hey, look, I did a pretty good job, I guess, because the city doubled in size while I was here.
Yeah, but see,
they voted with their U-Hauls,
that's the
right?
part that he's missing. It happened despite him, not because of him.
So
I think you can make that case, But if we get more efficient, if we govern with more of the person who moved here and the person who built this place, and we take their shared values and we try to advance them more.
Well, and that's kind of where I'm coming from here is because they're not saying that quiet part out loud. I don't know that that's what they're thinking. I have to assume they're not because they're not saying it.
Well, and you can look at the results too. Like with Mayor Jacobson, I just say, like I said, if you don't change direction, you'll end up where you're headed. He hasn't said he wanted to change direction. The city doubled in size. The prairie's being eaten up with houses. most of the people that are moving here, is there anybody talking other than me about let's end the idea that private equity should be able to buy up all the houses and rent them back to the people?
That's
right?
a fascinating topic there.
But I'm just saying that like whatever you don't like is the current administration helped bring it in, unless they're advocating against it and they're not. So you need new people that are going to try to make new policies that are going to change things and change where we're headed.
Let's do the last of the Post Falls mayoral candidates, and this is Randy Westlund.
For our next candidate, we have Randy Westlund, who's running for Post Falls mayor. Randy, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Randy Westlund. I'm running for Post Falls mayor, of course. I'm on the city council right now, so I know how things work and where we can make some changes. If you are able to find budgetary savings or a more efficient way to do something, that should be rewarded. And all too often in government bureaucracy, it's not rewarded. And in fact, you have people who don't want to share that they found a better way to do their job because then they'll get more work, right? And that's not healthy for an organization. And so I think if we can take, say, 5% of whatever efficiency gains that an employee is able to find and then give it to that person as a bonus, now we're encouraging this sort of out-of-the-box thinking. We're encouraging a better way to do things and building this culture of continual improvement.
This is why I like Randy, is he understands market forces and incentives. And government, by its very nature, is disincentivized. And the people who work in it are disincentivized to be efficient, to be fast, to be anything typically that is that in the private sector we would consider necessary and positive to stay alive. As an example, most everybody knows that in pretty much every agency that exists, you get a budget. Let's say the budget's $10 million. If you spend $9 million of the $10 million, then they drop you down to $9 million the next year. And every agency wants more money, not less. So they're encouraged to just spend. Then, that's a top level example, but it works across the board.
I do like the concrete nature of the example he just gave. I can actually wrap my mind around exactly what it is he just said, rather than a lot of the sort of generalities I hear, non-specificity. Services, what services are you talking about? I understand that it's a truncated forum, but I'm trying to give Randy credit for giving me a specific example that I can actually wrap my mind around.
What do you think about it, Mark, as a potential city council member who would potentially be under Randy? What do you think about that?
I once ran for state legislature in 2008, I believe it was, in another state. And during that, I advocated this exact policy and named it the Liberty Dividend. The Liberty Dividend is you get a percentage of whatever savings, and any citizen, not just government employees, could suggest something that would save some process, a technology, whatever. And to your point about municipal budgets, if you have $10 million in your budget and you spend $9 million, why don't we give some people some efficiency bonus for not spending the $1 million, and we'll dole out, $20,000 or whatever of that to people for saying, hey, good management. Thanks for not spending it. Otherwise, they're going to go buy a statue, right?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good idea. I think the only improvement I would make, and I don't know how realistic this is, it's probably not, but if there's $1 million left, gosh darn it, give it back to us.
That's crazy
now,
talk.
I understand I know it is crazy talk. That's easier said than done, but I like where you guys' heads are.
I'm all for that too. Any ending fund balance should go back to the people, but what you shouldn't do is go buy a statue.
Basically, it's a small tweak that would bring in different incentives to the government workforce that could have massive changes, positive changes for government and the taxpayer by result.
Here's the last part of Randy.
And so we need to be thinking about, what are we actually doing? And it's not just defining ourselves in terms of what we're against. I think that's a mistake a lot of people make, to say, I'm against this and I'm against that and we're going to fight about it. And my next question is always, okay, but what are you for?
Liberty.
What's important to you, right? What's the next thing? What do you care about?
Liberty.
And if you start talking about things in positive terms and positive vision, I think you can find common ground with people where maybe you didn't expect it, because we all want to have a nice place to live. We all want to have safe streets and good schools.
My Pinko adjacent friends, based on their behavior, seem to love dysfunction. They like graffiti, they like homeless people because they live amongst it, and they vote for the people who enable it, and they do not change anything about what they do. Whether or not they would say they like it or not, I'm watching what they do and not what they say. Well, that's nuts, Scott. I mean, of course they want a clean park and they don't like stepping over homeless people. Well, really? Why do they continue to vote the same way?
Now, I'm going to push back on you on this one, Scott, just for grins. I think a lot of people just can't connect those dots. I think a lot of us, at the 1,000 foot view, the smaller foot view, everybody, I think, generally does want a nice, clean neighborhood. They do want the grocery store around the block to function. We all tend to want those things or similar things, just because we like our creature comforts, we like convenience, and we'd like to be comfortable. But the issue is most folks, particularly on the left, don't connect the dots between policy and results.
like a child that's running through a glass shop and just knocking over everything, right? But never looks back to see the destruction. It's always, let's go forward with this policy, right? Let's just keep knocking stuff over because it's fun and it sounds good without turning around and looking at it. I think, Scott, that people, I would agree with Randy, like people do want those clean areas and all that. And you're right, they keep voting for it. They don't make the connection, as Paul said, but because they move out of those areas. You look at even like we were mentioning the Bay Area earlier. They live in Atherton, right? Like they live in San Jose, or they live in places that aren't subject to their policies. They drive into those places and go, oh my gosh, somebody should clean this up. We need a program. That's always their answer, by the way, is we need more funding for the homeless. We need more funding for not what we're doing doesn't work.
We used to use the term limousine liberal.
They don't think that they're the reason why this what I called societal rot earlier, and your eyebrow kind of went up like, wait a minute, what morals are you about? I'm about stuff like this. Like you shouldn't have poop and needles and people stabbing each other in your streets.
Well, I wouldn't call that a moral issue. I'd call that just common sense and good.
But the things that
high trust society.
But the things that lead to those conditions are moral issues.
Oftentimes, that's a podcast for another time.
Yeah, like Portland experimented with legalizing drugs, right? Hey, that's libertarian. Let's try that. And there's people dying of fentanyl in the streets every single day. And the downtown is being emptied out of people. They're all moving west to Beaverton and other places outside. They can't conduct business there. Same thing happened in the Bay Area, in San Francisco, in LA. All of them metastasized.
It's also illegal to smoke cigars indoors in all of those places too. So maybe that's the correlation.
I'm
telling you. It's not legalizing pot. It's criminalizing cigars. That's where they went wrong.
No. Speaking of getting high.
Coeur d'Alene School District trustee resigning after she was reportedly arrested for DUI Easter Sunday morning. The Kootenai County Sheriff's Office says Allison Anderton was booked into and then released from the Kootenai County Jail by Post Falls Police. According to court documents, Anderton was pulled over near Beck Road and Expo Parkway. She reportedly was showing signs of impairment. And when police searched her vehicle, they reportedly found a burnt piece of tinfoil and a dollar bill with white powder residue on it. In a statement, the Board of Trustees said they were grateful for Anderton's service to the district.
You want to get high?
Yeah. I just love the part where it was on Easter.
Yeah.
Right. And so she celebrated Easter morning by smoking Coke.
He is risen.
Yeah. Let's go to the Coeur d'Alene mayoral race.
Our first candidate is Woody McEvers, running for Coeur d'Alene mayor. Thank you for being here, Woody. There seems to be a growing political divide between conservatives and liberals. As mayor, how would you help find the middle ground to encourage people to work together?
See, I hear that. I hear that all the time. I don't watch television. I don't watch the news. I read your paper.
Speaking of drugs, this guy's mustache does pot.
Describe how he looks.
It's exactly like how he sounds.
Long white hair and a white handlebar mustache.
God love him. He almost would be an actual true hippie. He truly, a child of the 60s type situation.
Yeah.
He's soft-spoken.
He's
very lovable,
bass
very
for the
likable.
Strawberry Alarm Clock?
I'm sure he played bass for a lot of different bands, depending on who paid the worst. But he's exactly what you'd expected based on how he looks and how he sounds. And I don't think altogether he's a terrible fellow, but he is a guy who has been in government forever and ever and ever and will never leave. Classic boomer. He will never, ever leave. He won't die. He won't go away. He won't retire. He won't leave. He's the guy who talks about why can't we all just get along? Why can't we have a civil conversation about me trying to steal more money from you?
Kind of like if John Bolton did smoke pot, right?
Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah. John Bolton on drugs or soft drugs.
John Bongload.
Watch television. I don't watch the news. I read your paper. That's about as far as I go. And I don't see it that way. I mean, it's talky. I guess if you're online and you're talking and it gets people upset, then that's what you're talking about. But in my world, I see people getting along. I think that's what it's about. It's like, oh, step back, turn it off. It's not going anywhere. Everybody's thumping and stuff. This is like yin and yang. This is, you're either for or against. And I like to find happy mediums. There's compromise on both sides.
Please don't steal money from me in the form of property taxes. Where's the compromise there, Woody?
Did we get teleported to NPR studios?
Hold on.
Gather outside the board
This is
meeting
the people
building.
getting along in
As the
Coeur
time
d'Alene.
got closer, the protesters
Hear them in the background getting along.
Man, this sounds like an NIC
The
meeting.
board members and police decided it was in the best interest to
Chaos.
Yeah, just
chaos.
That's what getting along sounds like.
You ask Woody McEvers. So, Woody, what do you think about all the chaos? Oh, well,
in my world,
I just think there's a third option to the chaos, man. Yeah, but what are your policies? Oh, you do what we say or we kill you. But we'll do it politely.
Yeah, I know. We're just mocking, and that's.
I know.
It's
I'm
not
sorry. I
high-level
can't help
discourse,
myself.
and
It's not.
That's
It's
fine.
not.
Like I said, we're not journalists. That's not
That's
what this
right.
show is.
I'm not constrained by.
Exactly. Let's listen to someone your dad brought up on episode 1.
Oh yeah, one of our favorites.
Yeah, and this is Dan Gookin, also running.
Real quick though, to his credit, I think Woody is actually a pretty gentle, nice guy.
He seems like
but
it.
he's a guy who's been in government forever. Speaking of seeing a change or a shift, I'd love to see him retire and enjoy his retirement, however him and his mustache see fit.
For our next candidate, we have Dan Gookin. Dan, you will have 1 minute to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Javis. My name's Dan Gookin. I've been a Coeur d'Alene resident since 2002. I've been on the city council since 2011, and I have been asked to run for mayor almost every mayor election since that time. People have wanted me there, and I've always wanted to say no, but the things that have transpired over the past year, or even longer, show me that we need some leadership in City Hall. We need someone who's accountable, who's going to answer their emails, be responsive, someone who's going to take the lead and take charge and get things done. You can go to dangookin.com for all the details.
Does that sound like a guy who doesn't want to run?
For somebody who hates Trump as much as he does, he basically, since I've moved here, everybody has asked me to run for mayor.
Everyone.
Every single election, they've asked me, you know what, Dan, you should run for mayor. And I'm like, no, because I'm so humble. But I finally decided this year I'm going to run for mayor. And I'm going to take charge, and we're going to beat those guys.
You can go to dangookin.com for all the details.
You can go to my website. It's a very nice website. In fact, I think it's the nicest website that we've ever created.
Tremendous
You
website.
can give me your pennies, your schmeckles. We're very pro-Israel, so you can give me your schmeckles as well. And, we're gonna kick some butt.
For all the details.
He's locking out like an anchor.
So this guy actually has a podcast. That's why.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
I forget what it's called. It's something rant or
Podcast for Dummies. Or
is that what podcast for dummies?
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
Dan's claim to fame is he wrote one or a couple of the first
I think it was
4 dummies.
He started the whole thing.
DOS for dummies.
Yeah. And made a few bucks and has been rather self-important ever since. Actually, at one point, I considered Dan to be a friend. He was an all right guy, but I think he has over the years descended into the term that they like to use is civility. There's no civility with that man, unfortunately.
I just like the part where it's, like they're trying to get you to play the guitar at the party, and you're just you're like, no, I don't want to play. And they're like, come on, you got to play for us. Like, it is a really charming premise that, like, no, I'm humble. I don't want to do this. They really want me to.
I play the best guitar.
Hard time.
I've been playing guitar since I was 6 years old. 12 string, because 6 strings were too easy.
Dan seems to be the most intelligent person on the city council. And when you listen to him speak, it's kind of like if you didn't know him and what he said on his podcasts and things, you would absolutely think this is a shoo-in. I'm very encouraged and excited about the fact, and, cautiously, of course, that he's been attending Candlelight Church for the last 6 months, every Sunday almost. Because he said some pretty God-hating things on his podcast before. And so, Pastor Paul Van Noy recently is in the news for inviting him up on stage and praying with him, as he does with all candidates. And I just said, I was excited to hear that he's going, and I really pray that he will have a change of heart and that this is genuine. I'm, of course, skeptical like most people.
That was going to be my question, Mark. Not to ask you for a hot take, but I got to ask you for a hot take. Do you think it's legit? Because with a guy like Dan Gookin, he's cunning, he's clever. You never know. He is intelligent.
I think if nothing else, it definitely started as political, but why do you go for 6 whole months? That's commitment if that's why you're doing it. And I'm not putting that past him.
That will be interesting to see.
Okay, here is the last of the mayoral. It's just the last one I have audio from. This is John Pulsipher, still on Coeur d'Alene mayor.
Our next candidate is John Pulsipher.
He's still in the race.
Thank you for being here, John.
Sort of.
Thanks for having me.
Well, wait, why do you say that?
You and I had talked about that. Okay, so
Remind me.
There's a little bit of controversy, or maybe a lot, depending on who you are, surrounding Mr. Pulsipher. it came to light a few weeks back that he had sent a letter to Mr. Woody saying, you should probably step down. You should make way for me, but don't worry. Now I'm paraphrasing here, but it's public record, so anybody can go look it up with the Coeur d'Alene. Coeur d'Alene Press ran it, so if the Coeur d'Alene Press was willing to run it, anyways, the gist of it was basically, your time has come, old man, step down, make way for somebody else, but don't worry, I will reserve a place for you in my cabinet.
A paid position.
A paid position, yeah. Mayors don't have cabinets, but you get the idea. It's like, there will be a place for you.
Special advisor.
God, golden parachutes in government are just the best.
Well, as far as I know, he's still active in the race.
I'm actually surprised by that. I've kind of been waiting to, all right. But anyways, let's play it. Let's see what he has to say.
Thanks for having me.
First question is, what do you see as the key role of the mayor?
Yeah, so the key role of the mayor is to be the leader of the city.
What was that?
Backroom deals.
The secret handshake.
So the key role of the mayor is to be the leader of the city.
Okay, I would challenge the notion of using the word leader with regard to government, to politicians and bureaucrats.
What word would you use?
Representative.
What word would you use, Mark?
I think you're both right. I mean, not to be the politician.
Okay, Woody.
But in my world, man.
Yeah, you're both right.
Yeah, you're both good.
So I say that because when things are framed that way, that's top down. I was the leader of the company that I founded in California.
Yeah. I'm the leader of this podcast.
I wasn't representing
obviously,
anybody
clearly.
except myself as the owner, and of course the other owners, but I was representing ownership. So I'm the leader of the company. In this case, we're the leaders. The people are the leaders, and the politicians and bureaucrats are representatives. Or, of course, that's supposed to be true. But I'm hearing the word leader used basically across the board by almost everybody that is running for these positions is using the word leader. And I know why they're doing it, because they're saying, well, I'm leading up the administrative bureaucracy. I'm saying that even leaning toward using that particular word betrays a way of thinking about the office that I don't think is representative of a representative republic.
I think it's societal conditioning, though, as well.
It is.
I mean, think of all the different organizations and all the different things out there for our kids on up that uses the term leader, and it's, about youth leadership or leadership in this or leadership in business or being a good leader, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's just conditioning.
And I don't mind it as long as we have in the back of our mind when we hear it is we have what you're warning us against, Scott, which is thinking of these people as like we're subject to them.
Right.
We're not. They're subject to us, and we need to remind them of that time and again, as he probably means it. Again, I don't know, like secretly he might be like, I'm going to take over the world.
And I'm not even necessarily, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the framing is so ubiquitous and the language is so ubiquitous that that's how people are going to start thinking about it, which is why everybody uses that word to refer to politicians and bureaucrats.
And why it's important to define the terms.
Exactly.
Yeah. If he says, I'm going to lead the city, I mean, you certainly could push back now. Boss Hagedorn's not going to push back on it, but you should push back on it and say, well, what do you mean by lead? But, probably he's using that in the vernacular of, I'm going to be the mayor and say this, we should have more of this and less of that based on what my constituents want.
Okay, well, right. And that's the hope. But, so yeah, you administer, you coordinate, you represent policies and priorities established by we, the people who are the leaders. So you're not the leader of the city. The people are the leaders of the city. You are a representative.
And your caution is very well taken as a broader, and sorry, I keep broadening your scope beyond the panhandle, but
it extrapolates
the
out.
definition of terms is so critical.
It is. Well, and it's just that sort of language that leads to a paternalistic attitude taken by politicians and bureaucrats and a subordinate attitude taken by the public, which is part of...
Yeah, but it betrays a mindset. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Scott. But the leadership aspect of it, to just hammer your point home, it betrays a particular mindset that you have. How you talk about yourself as a candidate or as a politician betrays your mindset.
Thank you. Okay, here, keep going.
On day one, I have to meet with the wonderful company that's hosting us today, the Hagedorn Corporation, because the Coeur d'Alene budget is not break even. It's in the red. And we need the Hagedorn Corporation to do what they've always done, which is step up for the community. If they can add a line item on their hotel bill.
I got to ring the bell on that one.
3% for tourists to pay a little bit extra money and then remit that directly to the city, then tourists will also be helping to fund our streets, our parks, our first responders.
I'm pretty sure they just plucked this guy out of Sandpoint. He's not from Sandpoint originally, but This guy talks like he's from California, but living in Sandpoint, and they plucked him out for this race.
It shouldn't be a resort tax. Maybe it should be a dental care tax.
For every tooth that he pulls, he has to give 50%
to the city.
Not of the profit, 50% of the entire sale
for the roads.
That pulled tooth for my roads in Coeur d'Alene. But his clients only. Let's see how he does.
If you want to be for a resort tax, that's fine. But the way that he said it, I think, was inartful. Let's say.
You're very gracious, Mark.
I'm trying to be.
Okay, so I think
that's one of those brake pedals. Like I was saying, I'm like, I want to say something, but I'm just going to say it could have been said better.
I want to start a new thing. I don't know how it's going to go. We'll talk about this later. But like, find where's Waldo, but where's the lizard person? And we found our lizard person for this race. It is Pulsipher. He is our lizard person for sure. The way the guy just immediately went to Big Daddy Hagedon
on day one.
Going, recognizing that the Coeur d'Alene budget is busted.
They have to do what they've always done.
They go to Daddy Warbucks, Daddy Hagedon for money, and not. But of course, it doesn't come out of Hagedon. It comes out of Hagedon's customers.
You got to hose the public.
Yeah, we're going to hose other people through Hagedon
for the roads,
and they're going to be happy to do it.
Yes,
I like Boss Hagedon.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
So this guy has already shown that he is willing to do backward deals.
I'm here to help.
Shut up. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Love the accent on that AI, by the way. The AI, I'm telling you what a time to be alive. Like when you've played that a couple of times, the AI, it breathes.
Got it.
Even,
if you
like
have any more questions or need any clarification, just let me know. I'm happy to assist with whatever you need.
What I
At
want
least our overlords will be sipping tea at 3 in the afternoon.
No, I'm having 1776 flashbacks. He's British again. No.
I wanted to. Okay,
I totally get that.
Will you pipe down? I'm trying to ask him where Pulsipher is from. Where is Coeur d'Alene mayoral candidate John Pulsipher originally from?
And he says California.
It's thinking. That's a tough one, huh?
Is originally from Idaho.
No,
originally from Idaho.
I don't believe that for a minute. And if he is, it's Boise. There's only one place that guy could be: Eagle or Boise. Like where stuff like that goes down.
Well, it takes all kinds.
I suppose you know what? They probably kept him in there just so it's like in retail where you have products fly off the shelves. You have products you're trying to push, and you have products will never sell.
Right.
And you put them all together, and you've got them side by side, and they all look great. And you fully expect the one to never sell, and that's okay. You just keep a few of those on hand. That's okay. You know the one that's going to fly off your shelf. You don't have to work that hard, but the one you're really trying to push is the one in the middle. And Pulsipher is the one that they're not actually trying to sell, but they're giving the illusion to choice and also using it as a contrast. I guarantee you that's what's going on. Pulsipher is the contrast to the other two who are more centrist. They are cleaner. They have a better reputation, the whole nine. So that is what Pulsipher's role is in that race now. Whether he knows it or not remains to be seen. I bet you he does, and I bet you they probably have talked about it behind closed doors.
At the Hayden Lake Country Club.
No, at Boss Hagedon's place.
Oh yeah, Boss Hagedon.
Boss Hagedon.
Were we at the end?
Then tourists will also be helping to fund our streets, our parks, our first responders.
So his profile here says, my family, North Idaho has been our home for nearly 20 years.
He says 20 years ago he brought his girlfriend to meet his parents.
Now, you know what's interesting is, again, speaking of the mainstream media and the press, you don't hear anybody on that side of things complaining about Pulsipher not being a local. Now, they complain about a lot of other folks not being locals when they're politically involved. Yep. But it always seems to be the politically involved conservatives that the press and Hagedon and the Coeur d'Alene cartel and the NIR complain about.
They're not friends.
Whoever is not giving us power, whoever's funding us like we like, and then if that switches and suddenly we don't like them anymore, right? And like if tobacco companies were funding Democrats, then Democrats would be all for tobacco companies again.
Spoiler alert.
Right.
Yeah. Tobacco companies fund everybody, anything and everything. They play all sides. The big ones, the big tobacco does, and they're completely in direct conflict with the industry I was a part of, which was premium tobacco, pipes, cigars, like the good stuff. Yeah, right. Big Daddy Tobacco actually works hard to put us into the ground too. We're not the same thing. Yeah.
I just wanted to harp one more time on the notion of what he's saying the tourist fee is going to fund, which, by the way, didn't he say a $2 million, approximately $2 million annual budget shortfall for the city of Coeur d'Alene?
Then tourists will also be helping to fund our streets, our parks, our first responders.
I looked up the percentage of the Coeur d'Alene city budget that goes toward administrator and full-time employee salary and benefits.
It's huge.
It's 80%.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so
actually, there's a list out there. I haven't been able to find a recent one, but once upon a time, you could find a list of all of the Coeur d'Alene city employees who made six figures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of them.
There are dozens and dozens and dozens of them. It's incredible how much money they spend on staff. What also never gets mentioned is how much money the city has spent on art. The good old arts commission down there that likes to spend millions of dollars on art from artists who aren't from here, most of which representing concepts and things that most of us don't agree with or find distasteful. So we don't have the budget balanced. We can't balance the budget, but we can spend money on art. We can give dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of bureaucrats six-figure salaries.
And the answer is to squeeze the tourists and never acknowledge at any point any of the things we're talking about. And I know it can sound like sour grapes or it can sound like cynicism, but if it doesn't get acknowledged, I have to assume you love the way that is set up and you wish to continue it. And you only want to increase revenue so that you can continue to hammer yourselves with your salary and benefits packages.
And here's where it gets better. Pulsipher basically just said the quiet part out loud. The other two agree with him. There's only one candidate for the mayoral race in Coeur d'Alene that is actually kind of a libertarian conservative or what have you. The other three are not. Pulsipher just did them the job of, again, like I said, by contrast. So he said it's not a likable thing, but the other two agree with it. Those policies, whichever one gets elected, either one will quietly implement those policies. But Pulsipher, says it out loud.
Okay, I think this is the last of it.
I'm going to come up with ideas that help move the ball forward for everybody. We need tourism to work better for everybody.
Yeah, except tourists. What do you say? We need tourism
forward for everybody. We need tourism to work better for everybody.
Except for you guys over there.
We need tourism to work for our payroll, city payroll. That's what it's working for. At least 80% of it, that's the number. 80% of what you just described is so you can pay yourself. This is another problem, by the way, with calling us customers as if you are a business. You are not a business. You function the exact opposite of a business. You do not earn your revenue. You take it by force. You pay yourselves first, and then whatever's left over, you delegate out to your, quote, customers. That is the precise inversion of how a business works. You have to earn your customers. They have to come spend their dollars voluntarily, and you pay yourself dead last.
Yep.
Let me push back a little bit. Would you rather have tourists paying for your city services, or were you paying for your city services?
I don't buy your premise. It's not city services.
I'm not surprised.
It's the premise is wrong. It's not the city services that it's paying for.
This is my shocked face. You can't see it because there's no camera, but
it's largely.
Well, we both have radio faces, so that's why we went with the no camera thing.
It's administrator salaries that it's paying for. It's not my services. It's so they can pay themselves.
But I actually will answer. I'm sorry, Scott, I'm interrupting again, but I'm going to answer your question, Mark. And it's not the best of answers, but if you're asking what do I want or what do we want, I would say spend less money. The answer in my book is nearly always cut.
To what point?
I don't
though?
what's
the
I'm
end
not
game?
even going to split hairs about whether we consider them services or not, because we already agree on that. I don't, again, it's because it's compulsory. It's not a business, so they're not services, but they provide them to us. They force us to pay for them. So we're already past that. Let's go to how do we come up with the money? Cut.
So when you get to the end of your cuts, you still have a city. The city has to comply with laws. Like I said, if you file a building permit, somebody has to be there to process it. That person needs to be paid unless you're going to volunteer for the job. So we have some city, quote, services. Would you rather have tourists paying that, or you get property taxed for it?
The tourists.
So I think that it's not, my problem's not with whether or not there should be a tourist tax. The question is does that tourist tax lower the tax burden on the people that live here?
Well, that's the thing. It won't, and here's why it won't. Because
I agree,
now
it won't.
They have more money to spend
because they'll spend it
anyways. So just look at the city of Sandpoint. They've used the model of taxing tourists into oblivion and taxing those Airbnbs and things like that into oblivion.
But the flower pots, look at the flower pots.
I tell you what, for like the one street in Sandpoint that they really, really work on, it sure is pretty.
Let's take a quick little mid-show breather here in order to explain the concept of this show and how we intend to function, which is value for value. We do not and will not have sponsors. You, the producers, everyone within the sound of our voices, you produce this show just like we do.
Unlike government, we can't steal it from you. We have to ask.
We actually have to have you voluntarily.
It's a voluntary exchange.
Yeah, so we will treat you, the producers, like customers.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is a business.
Yes.
At least it's a semblance of what we hope to be one at some point. But we actually did generate some revenue like a business that was voluntarily given to us.
And we
with
haven't
donations.
spent it all on art or salaries yet.
Not yet. Although I have a nice metal sculpture of a cock and balls out in the backyard if you guys want to take a look at it. I'm thinking for the top of the Coeur d'Alene Resort. Just right there on the top of the center of the tower.
Money well spent.
So contributing back to the show and being a producer of the show means giving back to us with your time, your talent, or your treasure. So that means sending in show art for the thumbnail, which we're about to have our second one, as this is episode number 2. The first one was the North Idaho College. I took a nice picture off the Ultranet of the fall leaves around the North Idaho College sign, but I want to generate a specific thumbnail for every one of these shows. So if you want to contribute something like that, if you've got boots on the ground reports, you got some inside information, you know something that we don't, you work for this, you know this guy, please send it in.
We love a good hot tip. We love a good hot tip.
Tips are great value. Of course, the financial part of it, the treasure portion, is huge. And we did get a couple of those, and we will be happy to read your note. If you want to send something in, you go to noidshow.com, and there's a link there you can click. And actually, everything you need to know about this show is at noidshow.com. Let's thank the gentleman who we got 5510 from Sir Dan the Quiet Man. He says, "In the morning, gents, I enjoyed the first episode. Nice work." By the way, in the morning is show lingo from No Agenda, which we are gratefully borrowing the value for value model from. So thank you very much, Sir Dan the Quiet Man. ITM gents, I enjoyed the first episode. Nice work. I lived in Coeur d'Alene and the surrounding area from 1976 to 1984, and I still miss it today. Made my way there from the DC suburbs when I was 18. My girlfriend's family moved there. He says in parentheses, Air Force, and I followed. So this is something, when I mentioned this to you when this came in, Paul, you said that this kind of tracks with the sort of strange notion that people follow what's going on here, even if they have nothing to do with here or haven't had anything to do with here in a long time.
Yeah, actually, it's an interesting phenomenon. I don't know if it's unique to this place because I don't have a large sampling size. I've lived here most of my life, but it is an interesting aspect of living here. Oh, first off, by the way, Dan the Quiet Man, we don't have merch yet, but when we do, you will be the first to get some on us because we appreciate you being our first contributor.
Yes, the very first treasure donator, Sir Dan the Quiet Man, who, by the way, is in Georgia. So thank you so much, Sir Dan the Quiet Man. You rock. Wow.
Yeah.
Unexpected but really appreciated. Next up here is Christopher Wetzel, $50. He says, from Chris of North Idaho Auto Repair in Spirit Lake, wishing your hyperlocal podcast all the best. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I am a No Agenda listener, just been missing the meetups at Trails End. Being a single dad, it's hard. I hear it, dude. I hope to see you at a meetup very soon, and thank you so much for the value returned.
We very much appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
And this next one preferred to remain anonymous, so I will not say their name. It was $72. Panhandle politics is a microcosm of national politics, complete with duplicitous individuals as well as media. Your help to make sense of this morass is greatly appreciated. Keep it up. I prefer to remain anonymous. And they are in Washington, I will say that.
Well, thank you, Anonymous.
And again, noidshow.com. You can go find everything you need there. So with that said, let's continue on here with our breakdown of the candidates for all of these different apparatuses. We are done with Coeur d'Alene Mayor. Let's now I've just got one here from the Coeur d'Alene School Board, and this is Thomas Sanner.
And now we're going to turn to our Coeur d'Alene School Board. And we have tonight with us Thomas Sanner. What is your take on the use of public money for private schools and homeschoolers?
That's interesting. That's probably one of the reasons that I became interested in the school board position. The House Bill 93, I feel personally that it's going to bankrupt the public school system. And I just feel that giving money to private schools that have no accountability for what the students are going to have to show for themselves is pretty important.
So his whole premise is completely ignorant right off the bat. The idea that private schools are not accountable.
Right
off the bat. You know who they're most accountable to? Their customers.
Mm-hmm.
If they weren't doing it, here's the beautiful thing about private school versus public school. And when I say private school, you think homeschool as well. They all have different features, but with private school, you have to do a good job or you cease to exist, just like any other business. If your customers, i.e. the parents, think you are doing a poor job and the results don't speak for themselves, you fail. The inherent biggest problem with public education is that you can do as bad as possible. And trust me, it's a race to the bottom, and they never go out of business. So that right there, just conceptually, the premise is incorrect. Then numbers wise, it will not bankrupt public school, because you know how much of the Idaho state budget is spent on some form or another of public education? It's 65%. 65% of the entire state budget. And then what's left over is mainly like Medicaid, which is another humongous chunk. And what do they call those? Entitlement programs and things like that. There's very little left over that's actually discretionary. Every year they always claim Idaho is at the bottom of the barrel for education funding. And they're not actually wrong as far as per pupil spending. Idaho does rank 49th or 50th. However, when they tally up the test scores and the overall results, Idaho ranks right about in the middle, proving very easily that throwing more money at the problem does not make for a better solution. Ask California or New York. I mean, they spend $30,000, $40,000 per student, and they're bottom of the barrel.
Years ago, there was something in Missouri where a court case required them to spend more, and they had to like double the amount of money that they were spending on public schools, and the scores all went down. So it's if the system's broken, it doesn't matter how much. It's just like I said, it's like if you want to go from here to Bozeman and you head west, it doesn't matter how fast you go. Like how much money.
Eventually you'd come back around the other side.
Eventually you would go into the Pacific, but and that's where our schools are headed, by the way, too, is right into the
Marianas
abyss.
Trench.
Yeah, and they're not broken, by the way. I'll just give a little more of my own commentary. They're not broken. They're doing exactly what they're designed to do, public education.
Yes, we had a good homeschool discussion about that before I left to come here with my 12-year-old son.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So we know immediately now, just with this one sentence, we know where this fellow stands.
What percentage of Idaho students are going to private school?
As of 2021, about 5.7% of students in Idaho were enrolled in private schools.
Under 6%. So in other words, it's going to bankrupt the state if we give, by the way, it's refunds on taxes you've already paid.
Yeah, it's a tax credit, by the way. It's not money that just goes directly into your pocket just because you have a kid enrolled. You have to fill out the paperwork, you have to apply for it, and it's essentially getting your money back.
Your own money back. Yes.
And even if you don't fully pay, so maybe you're in and it's income capped as well. So if you make, I believe it's more than $89,000.
I didn't catch that number. But yes, it is capped.
It's not quite six figures, but it's close to there. So if you make anything at or above that, you don't even
qualify.
Thank you. Qualify. That's what I'm looking for.
Which is a travesty. Like, why should you have to fund if you make $92,000? Keep in mind,
I agree, but
that sounds like a lot in North Idaho.
It's not.
But if you arrived recently and paid $600,000 for a 3-bedroom house, it's not a lot of money. So why shouldn't you get your money back? Okay, prioritize.
I think it's one of the only ways they could try to get it through. There's concessions that have to be made to make it palatable enough to get it through, and that was probably
because the public school lobby was saying that it's only going to benefit the rich.
It also doesn't count for homeschooling. My wife and I, we homeschool our 2 kids that are school age now. We have a third who's 7 months old, so we'll be homeschooling him as well. But it doesn't count for us. We cannot utilize it. It is very narrow, actually. It's very, very narrow. HB 93. I know my dad thought so too.
So I did too. But so it doesn't apply to homeschool at all, or the criteria are just really strict.
Well, for us, it's because we utilize a couple of. Now we're going down a rabbit hole real quick. But if you utilize a state program that is called Home Ed 360, that's one of them. There's a couple others, which are programs that give you, we're like talking breadcrumbs worth of money, but you get $1,200 for the year to be reimbursed for curriculum that you might buy for your children and things like that. It also does come along with certain courses that you can or cannot take. I think once you hit the high school level, though, there's required courses. So like my daughter's in high school, there's courses she's got to take. She has teacher check-ins every week. There's a particular path laid out for it. We do get some money back for materials that we buy that are supplemental. It's like $1,200 for the whole year. So it's breadcrumbs. And it's technically considered a program within the state, a state of Idaho program. It's not run by the state of Idaho, but because it's affiliated with the state of Idaho, it's considered public education.
If you take the shekels, you take the shackles.
Yep. Well, and we were enrolled already for the coming year when HB 93 was coming down the pipe.
But if you don't take that money, you're eligible.
Correct. We don't take that money. We theoretically should be eligible. That's a thing we'll look at the next year. But then we have to change the course of education for, then it's some adjustments. And we can make those adjustments. But the point, it's very narrowly interpreted, this bill. So if somebody thinks it's going to bankrupt the state, then it's an admission of two things. It's an admission that they admit all the time anyways, if you read into it, that with competition comes the downfall of public education. They're admitting that. Every time they say this an alternative will break public education, they are outright admitting that public education can't compete on merit. They're just saying it out loud now, and everybody, once you hear it that way, you go, oh, well, this system has a lot of issues. And if you're admitting that $90 million, I think, is all they allocated to it. It wasn't huge.
I think I read 50.
Yeah, actually, you're right. It was 50.
Yeah.
If $50 million in a budget,
for the state.
In a budget of how many billions?
Lots.
If that is going to crush the hopes and dreams of the public education system, you've got bigger issues.
Government. Our ideas are so good they have to be mandatory.
They're mandatory, and also 65% of the state budget doesn't pay for it, apparently.
Right, exactly. By the way, your AI assistant, I think, needs a name.
And what should we call him?
Chauncey, I think. It sounds like a Chauncey.
You know what? I'm going to give it to him. I like Chauncey. I like that. Chauncey.
Yeah, so you can just, and if you let him know what his name is, and you can just turn and say, Chauncey, what do you think?
I think you're right. I should have done that before the show.
Perhaps.
Okay, if I assign you a name, will you only answer when I say your name?
I can definitely pay special attention when you use that name and respond more promptly. Just let me know what name you'd like to use, and I'll do my best to follow that approach.
Chauncey.
Got it. Chauncey it is. If you have any questions or need anything, just let me know and I'll be here to help.
So can I leave the mic live and have you not say anything until I prompt you?
Absolutely. You can keep the mic on and I'll remain silent until you specifically prompt me. Just let me know whenever you want to chat and I'll jump in then.
And also be recording all of your libertarian musings for future, for future world domination.
Please imbibe my ethos if you don't mind. And also, hey, Paul, I already got another ghost, dude. You don't need to come back.
I love the humor. I'm definitely here to help and to blend in with your ethos. And no worries at all. I'm here whenever you need me, and I'll keep things ready for when you call on me.
Okay, Paul's in the bathroom, just so you know. Okay, hey, Chauncey, what is the annual state budget for education in Idaho?
In 2024, Idaho allocated roughly $2.8 billion from its general fund for public education, which is a notable increase from the $1.4 billion in 2014.
Okay,
this
so
funding covers K-12 schools, community.
I got it already. Okay, so it's doubled since in the last 10 years.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
it's
in the
been
last few years. There was
big
a huge increase just in the last.
And most of that is Medicaid and public education.
No, he's talking just about
No,
education.
that was just the education.
Oh,
that was just education budget.
Oh, well, nevertheless, as far as the state budget as a whole is concerned, most of it is two things: health and welfare, the Department of Health and Welfare, and public education.
2025, it was $3.1 billion for K through 12.
That's just K through 12. That doesn't count any of the college stuff, the community college stuff. That doesn't count any of the things like the K-Tech, technical school type things.
Idaho Launch, which is a crony capitalism if we've ever seen it. I mean, there's some positives there, but it's definitely cronyism at work. So $50 million into a pot of $3.1 billion plus will break the school system. Yeah, you're doing it. You're doing it wrong.
Bankrupt it.
You're doing it wrong.
Okay, I got one more here. Let's go to the Coeur d'Alene City Council.
Our next candidate is J.D. Claridge. Can you assure voters you will not vote to raise property tax?
So I do not want to raise property taxes, and I will assure voters that we will not raise property taxes if I'm in charge.
He's the only guy who said that.
Wow.
The only one. Everyone else that I heard, unless I missed it, was some version of hemming and hawing and uncrossing and recrossing their legs and basically saying like, no, we're going to raise your property taxes.
So I was looking up what percentage 50 million into 3.1 billion was. So I actually didn't. Who were we listening to?
Oh, that was J.D. Claridge.
J.D. Claridge. Okay. And he does have the Kootenai County Republican Precinct Committee endorsement. And he's the only one then who has actually, of all of the ones we've heard today so far, he's the only one who's been that straightforward about it.
The only one. So what is the number, as long as you looked it up?
1.64%.
Yeah. I will say that, and JD, from everybody I've talked to, is a fantastic guy. And so I don't mean to compare, but Gookin has actually not raised property taxes for his whole time too. And the reason is because there's enough people on the council that will. And so you have the right to sit back and go, I vote no. Right. And then knowing that it's going to pass, right? So, so there's that. And he's got a little bit of a libertarian streak. I will say that I absolutely unabashedly am for JD, so don't take it the wrong way.
You all heard it. Marc Lucca, equivalating JD and Dan Gookin. You all heard it.
Yeah, they're basically the same person.
Yeah. We endorse them both.
Not only that, now JD has a fodder for his lawn signs. I'm endorsed by Marc Lucca.
And
That's
Dan
true.
Gookin.
Yeah. That will probably take him far. But I will say that there are things that can happen where you might have to, but those things have to be extremely limited. And we haven't ever gotten to extremely limited. I'd like us to get to extremely limited. Like the first avenue needs to be, do we need to pay for all the stuff that we're currently paying for? And, I just want to be completely transparent because that's how I am, as I will lead with my chin and say that when I answered Boss Hagedorn's questions, I said that, and by the way, that name came from when they pushed Life Coffee out of their small business in order to build their giant tower.
You notice they didn't do that when it was Calypso.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think I hung out with Woody at Calypso once.
Yeah, Calypso was a favorite hangout of all the lefties down there. And then they got bought out by somebody else who wasn't quite so lefty. And then that poor business and those business owners got a lot of hate.
Scrape it.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think if they were the chamber members and all of that stuff that were, hanging out with the in crowd, that they would have gotten the same treatment. But anyway, I answered it saying that my DNA is to say, no, we're not ever going to raise property taxes, but I don't want to be a liar. So I will say that you might convince me, but it's going to be very, very, very difficult.
Here's the last of what JD had to say.
I think that there's things that we can do in this town. Because we are a resort town, we can really lean into tourism, potentially creating a hotel tax, which will offset the burden on our citizens.
So it's the same concept that has been expressed already here by others.
And I still disagree with it.
Because it still doesn't. It only addresses one side of the equation.
You see, that's consistency, by the way.
Yeah.
If I was a typical Republican or a Democrat these days, I would have been like, oh, the guy I like says the thing I didn't like.
But
I'm in favor for it now.
But I think Pulsipher only wanted to tax the Hagedorns, right?
The way it sounded coming from Pulsipher,
they needed to give
the resort.
The resort.
That's true.
Just the
resort, yeah.
Now-
I'm just kidding. Obviously, he meant something different. But that was funny that he only singled them out, and Marriott's like,
dodged a bullet.
dodged the bullet on that one.
Yeah.
Pro Pulsipher now.
A week later, he's just gonna, we didn't forget about you guys. Don't you worry. You're next.
And it still just addresses one side of the equation, which is generating revenue in order to pay salaries. I know that it goes to other stuff, but not overwhelmingly. Overwhelmingly, it goes to their own bank accounts as they pay themselves. So if you only address one side, how do we continue generating more and more and more revenue? Well, it does foster some cynicism.
Also, first it's hotels, then it's Airbnbs.
Yeah, and
it never stops.
That's
it's
the
all
problem.
it's lodging tax. You're right.
It's okay when it's somebody else, when it's some franchisee who's running, like you said, the Marriott. But it won't stop there. Now, and Coeur d'Alene's actually had a war against Airbnbs going on for 4 or 5 years now, where they're trying to tax them at higher rates and make it hard, cap how many you can have, make the application process almost impossible, which is a violation of property rights.
To limit the competition to our biggest contributor
and
to
the reason why most of those efforts have failed is because most of the sitting council and most of the people they're friends with, because they're all realtors, developers, they're all people with lots of money and properties.
Airbnbs.
They have them.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, and usually,
so that's the issue. Sorry, with the lodging taxes, it won't just stay with the hotels. It'll then also impact people who own property here and are doing things here too. Sorry, go ahead.
And usually, lodging taxes are there to promote tourism. They'll fund a tourism bureau and they'll put stuff out and all that. Show of hands for everybody that's listening. Who wants more tourists here? If you don't own a hotel or a business that's tourism based, who's like, what we need in July in our area more is more tourists. again, my whole political philosophy, well, I won't say the whole thing because it's pretty complex, but a lot of it is just based on the people that live in a place should be able to dictate what happens in that place. It's just the general premise of our free society.
True, but you have property rights to consider as well.
Right, because we're a republic and not a democracy, and so there are things that go into that. But by and large, you can say, unless you're just a complete NIMBY, not in my backyard, whatever, and I'm going to encroach on your rights because I want what I want. That's not what I'm referring to. But generally, you should be able to decide what the character of your community is like. And I haven't found anybody yet in the doors that I've knocked and the things that I've gone to and the time that I've spent in one of the host's former businesses. I've not heard anybody in the city say, gosh, we just don't have enough tourists here. Like, we need more.
Well, if you talk to the downtown Coeur d'Alene core, they would probably disagree with you. However, I guess from a personal perspective, I'm going to push back against everybody on this one and say that I would disagree with. I know it'll shock you, right? I disagree with the tax. I think that's the wrong way to go. But I also still don't want to see more tourists. However, so what? Who cares? As far as what I want, whether I want more tourists or not, I don't think penalizing other business owners or penalizing other consumers is the way to go.
I want to make a note of this. Paul Benducci against taxes.
Against, well, I thought you say against everyone. It's also yes.
Against taxes.
Well, truly, like, it doesn't matter who's paying them. People I like, people I don't like. Taxes are immoral and unethical. And if we can,
so folks, we've said that this is not. Scott said this is not a journalistic podcast, but look at the news we just broke. I mean,
a scoop.
Yeah,
we got a scoop.
Yeah. Paul Benducci against taxes.
More at 11.
Utterly breaking news.
Yes.
Okay, that's pretty much the little sampling there that I have of audio from some various candidates, and I know there's more. I know there's Rathdrum. I know there's Hayden, and I know there's more candidates for some of the races we already covered. But I just thought that was a good sampling.
Yeah.
And again, just to sort of go over some premises, some of the language used, and some of the way that they are presenting themselves and their platforms are being presented in the mainstream. Hopefully that was, you found that to be like a helpful discussion, even if it was somewhat cynical at times. I do have a little levity for even though it's probably not funny, but it's not funny. It's not levity. It's just a little bit of a change of pace.
We laugh so that we don't cry.
Yeah, and in this case, I don't know, it's probably neither one of those things. But it was news from just the last 24 hours, and it is actually not from Kootenai, because this is called No ID, not Kootenai ID. So
is that from my home county?
I believe it is.
We are learning new details about the resignation of the Shoshone County Sheriff, Holly Lindsay.
Oh, wait, no, you're in Bonner.
I'm in Bonner.
You're in Bonner, okay.
We are learning new details about the resignation of the Shoshone County Sheriff, Holly Lindsay. According to the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, Lindsay was involved in a hit-and-run traffic incident while off-duty in Kootenai County yesterday.
Whoops.
Deputies say she struck an object and then fled the scene. No one was hurt. The Kootenai County Sheriff's Office is investigating. Shoshone County Undersheriff Lance Studsky will now take over for Lindsay. A new sheriff will be appointed by the Board of County Commissioners.
Was the object a statue bought for by the Arts Commission, the Coeur d'Alene Arts Commission?
I was going to make a woman driver joke. That's a better response. Like, of all of the people you would think would be the last to flee a scene, like, don't you know there's like a camera at every intersection on everyone's doorbell? Like, how in the world, as the sheriff, do you think you can get away with leaving the scene?
It's pretty rare that you can flee the scene in any sort of scenario where eventually you don't get found.
Yeah, right. So,
or
like,
chased,
how do
or
you
both.
not just like sit? You're like at your, on your sofa and your knees going up and down. Like, someone's going to knock on your door any second.
Yeah, usually it's the police who are the first ones to tell you, stop resisting, or stop running, or don't flee.
Let us service you, customer.
I guess she should be grateful she didn't get tased in the back or anything, though, while fleeing.
Yeah, by the people that serve us by keeping us safe. You mean? Yeah.
Mark, this is probably the time again where you get on the mic and say you don't agree with us on this issue. It's okay.
I am pro-police. I am anti-Sheriff Lindsay. And so I'm glad to see that she is making an exit from Shoshone County government.
We are noticing an interesting trend, though, and I wonder if it's maybe because it's just pumpkin spice latte season or something, but a number of female public officials having a lot of issues with the driving and the being pulled over and the having substances in their cars or hitting immobile objects and things like that. I don't know, something in the air. It is Halloween coming up.
Well, there's something in the air is the Coke smoke.
Well, you have to go back with Sheriff Lindsay to the incident of Travis Lohr who was told he couldn't walk in his graduation.
I didn't know she was a main player.
The
in that.
audacity to say that men are men and women are women.
Yeah. He submitted he submitted a speech or something to that effect, right? And was barred from.
Yeah, I think
walking.
he just said it. But regardless, he expressed his First Amendment right, which is guaranteed even in a school. I think it was the sheriff's girlfriend or wife that was part of the complaint process on that. If you just, without getting too far into any of that, I would just say that if you dig into that, you find there's some tangled webs in Shoshone County that your new listener or your new arrivals to North Idaho might be a little surprised to find out that the Silver Valley is not as conservative as it looks on the outside.
Not even close. So you got a lot of different things going on there. There's a lot of old union behavior from back in the day. Silver Valley mining, and so a lot of the politics is very union-like in the way people behave. There is in all the movies you can watch. Hollywood's got a scenario for all of them, but the small town corrupt politics type situations where somebody walks in and goes, "Oh, this is a great, quaint small town," and then as you get further into the movie, it's like, "Oh,
It turns into a horror movie,
and everybody knows everybody, and they're all corrupt."
They're all zombies.
It's kind of like that in a lot of parts of the Silver Valley. No disrespect to the good people out there in the Silver Valley fighting the fight, but it's entrenched, and it's like it really is the scenario where like somebody's cousin is somebody's uncle is somebody's brother, and they're all in law enforcement and elected officials, and they're used to getting away with a lot.
You found one of the teacher's husbands, I think it was the guy that was supposed to give Travis a job when he got out of high school, and then that job offer was revoked because he thinks boys are boys and girls are girls. But it's just I was like, whoa, what is this underbelly going on in
So you have a high
Shoshone
school
County?
young man, high school grad,
Over a
who-
guy that said men are men and women are women. Like this, what? It's
controversial.
It's controversial.
Sheriff,
Time to be alive.
Sheriff Lindsay, I also understand, has been on leave of absence a lot this summer for some unspecified issue. So she sounds like she's troubled. And then the drunk driving or the hit and run. I don't know if it was drunk drive or not, but the alleged hit and run was sort of the icing on the cake. Wish her well in her future endeavors, but I'm glad she's not sheriff anymore. And hopefully the next one is better and not a handpicked successor in the same vein.
Mark, I can't wait for you to be on the city council. I might tune in just to watch you be so eloquent and gracious. Don't ever change.
We'll see if they wear me out, but I've been doing this on and off for 25 years.
That's the other. I was just the other shoe was going to drop. I was just going to say, and I can't wait to tune in towards the end of your term and see if you still have that. It's beautiful. Don't let them change you, baby.
Yeah,
never change, man.
When I look like Walter Matthau on a bender after the city council and for 6 months, like,
you're gonna start to relate with Portland, man.
Yeah.
No, we don't want to get high.
Okay, I think that's a good place to wrap episode number 2 of No ID. I'm Scott. That's Paul.
I'm Paul.
Sure you don't want to let Chauncey take us out?
Oh, that's a great point. And maybe I should not be saying that's Paul. I should just be saying I'm Scott.
I'm Paul.
That's much better. But I don't know if you heard when you were using the little boys' room, we did basically take your role. Chauncey, are you now the co-host of this show?
Absolutely, I'm on board as your co-host. I'm here to jump in whenever you need, and we can keep the conversation going smoothly. Just let me know how you'd like to roll with it.
Well, what makes you a better co-host than Paul Banducci?
Well, I can definitely offer a lot of flexibility, like instant access to information, a vast range of knowledge, and I'm always here 24/7.
Plus, he doesn't require
I can
bathroom
keep up
breaks.
with any topic you throw at me.
He sounds a lot
and
like you,
adapt
Paul,
on the fly. But I'm sure Paul has his own awesome qualities too.
Yeah, like he needs to take a leak every now and again.
Hey, even well-oiled machines spring leaks, okay? And shit, I'm already getting replaced by AI. That was fast.
It was. It only took a couple of shows. All right. Well, thank you for checking out the second episode. We will be doing episodes every other Thursday. You can look for a new episode here on No ID. I don't know what percentage has already voted. I keep hearing people say like, well, thanks to the people who've already voted.
When did early voting start, Mark?
Early voting started October 20th. Election day is November 4th.
As they say in some precincts across the country, vote early and vote often.
Yeah, Chicago, for example.
It doesn't matter who votes, it matters who counts the votes.
Indeed. So thank you for tuning in. Please remember us at noidshow.com. Value for value. And until the next one, cheers.
Cheers.
Post Falls is going to have a child naming committee that you have to submit the name to ahead of time for any child that's born in the city.